Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I wanted to remind you of our Road to 1,000 Subscribers giveaway that we have going on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe and have a public profile, you'll be entered to win a free RX Smart Gear original jump rope. You'll get to pick the pattern of the handles, the color and weight of the cable, and you'll be getting one of the best-selling, best-performing jump ropes out there. Every time we hit a new century mark with the number of subscribers to our channel, we'll randomly select a new winner. And our friend Dave Newman is going to throw in a little something extra for each winner. So a special thanks to our sponsor, RX Smart Gear, to Dave Newman for being such a great partner, and to you for being a loyal listener. Good luck, and I hope you are our next winner.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. This is the Clydesdale Fitness and Friends. My name is Scott Schweitzer. I am your host. I am the Clydesdale. We love to do fitness, and I'm here with my friends. Got my co-host Amy with me and special friend Connor Martin. Connor, how's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me on.
So Connor, if you don't know, is the original CrossFit kid. I like how you phrased it in some of your bios that you were the test tube for your parents.
Yeah, I like to call myself kind of the crash test dummy, if you will. I was the experiment. Hey, will this work with a 12-year-old? Okay. Oh, that was a terrible idea. And I got both of the positive stuff that you see now in the methodology that we use and train teens and kids with. But I also got the stuff like, oh, we're never going to do that again.
Gotcha.
So it was a fun way to grow up, if you will.
So, but none of that ever like hurt you in a way that was long affecting. It was just kind of fun trying to see what you were capable of at that age.
Yeah. So, just kind of give you a little bit of background. Obviously, I like to kid about it in the crash test dummy, but in no way, shape, or form were my parents saying, all right, we're going to put 500 pounds on your back and you're just going to squat it.
Right.
Nothing crazy like that. My parents developed the CrossFit Kids program. We got involved with CrossFit at a very early stage. I believe my dad went and took his level 1 certificate in 2003. So I think he was maybe the 5th seminar that they ever did. And we were the 5th CrossFit affiliate at the time.
So what got them interested in CrossFit? Were they doing other forms of fitness before that?
So my parents opened a martial arts and boxing facility when I was 8 years old. My dad had always been into martial arts and boxing. He had done amateur boxing and kickboxing himself. And it was just something that we all did as a family. At the time, we were training a lot of fighters out of our gym. And my dad was also, he was in his 40s, and he was spending more and more time in the gym going, why am I getting worse? I'm spending and dedicating more time to this. And I think he was on a very primitive form of Google. And he typed in, literally his type in was crazy ass workouts, and CrossFit came up. And he did the workout of the day, which that day happened to be Helen. And I remember him running around our backyard, and we had one of those, I want to say it was like a Bowflex dumbbell situation. So he had one of those dumbbells that's adjustable. You could take the pins out and get into the heavier weight. And he was swinging the dumbbell, doing kettlebell swings. And we had this really rickety pull-up rig in our backyard, and he was running around the backyard. And he actually threw up on his first attempt at it. And he thought, I must be sick. Maybe I'm going to give this workout a try again on Friday. So he came back on Friday, did the workout, and had the exact same effect after the workout, threw up again. And then he said, what's a great idea? I'm going to get my son to do this workout with me again on Monday.
I love that.
Yeah.
Misery loves company.
Yeah.
And to even take a little step back from there, my dad and I, it was always our thing growing up. I would spend time with him in the gym. So from 8 years old on, I was doing, boxing workouts with him, and just, small variations of whatever he was doing. So it had always been kind of this thing where he would do his workout and I would do a scaled variation of the workout beside him. So I started doing CrossFit alongside him, and he very quickly realized that he needed to not just scale the workout for me and have me do it alongside him, but if I was going to do CrossFit with him, it was going to be him watching me do the workout and coaching me through it. So we kind of very quickly identified that this wasn't just something that a teenager could pick up and, scale the reps and load and then just jump right into.
That's incredible. And so what's crazy is, so they kind of developed the methodology of doing that through you, and you competed at the CrossFit Games in 2007 at the age of 15.
Yeah. It was,
seems insane.
I like to think about that as, it was really like a barbecue at the time, where a bunch of friends just kind of gathered. I remember the flyer that they posted on CrossFit.com and being like, okay, I guess we're gonna go do this competition, because really the space to compete in CrossFit before that was just the comments on the main site. You knew there were other people doing the workouts worldwide, and you'd see their times on the comments, and that was kind of how we all competed at the time. Being a 15-year-old who's been into sports, my whole life, and having at that time, having done CrossFit now for almost 4 years, it was just something that I was interested in. And I think my dad sent an email to Dave Castro at the time and said, "Can Connor compete? He'd like to do the workouts." And he said, "I don't see why not." So I did.
So what did that look like with your peer group, like at home? Like, were your friends like, what is this crazy workout stuff that you're doing? Or did you kind of pull them into it with you?
It's funny. I think I had kind of like two groups of friends. I had the friends that were like really curious about what it was. And my best friend actually at the time, his name's David Shanahan. He and I really worked out together. So at about 13, he started as well. And then he and I kind of became training partners. Obviously other friends would try it out here and there, but he and I were the most consistent. And it's funny that, he and I both have kind of continued in this space. He went on to create FitAid. He was the founder of FitAid.
Oh, wow.
He ended up selling it in, I believe, 2015. But kind of a funny story there too. Both of us, starting within the CrossFit world and working out together, and both continuing to do something within the space beyond that.
Were you active on the main site comments?
I don't remember if I was posting all of my times and results. I do know that my dad and I kept like workout logs. I know my dad would post his times on there. I could probably go back and find some archives at some point.
Yeah, my thoughts were like, if I'm posting my times and I realize that this 15-year-old is beating my times, what were the reactions from everybody else?
It was funny because I think it was such like a grassroots thing at the time. It just seemed like I was just part of the community, and that there was crazy boundaries being broken in so many different regards. I remember when CrossFit posted Fran and like a challenge with Fran for the very first time, and it was, if anybody can beat Greg Amundson's time of 3 minutes and 59 seconds for Fran, we'll give you a free t-shirt. And at the time we're seeing like, nobody in the world is able to go under 4 minutes on this workout. And just to see constantly, month after month, new boundaries and barriers being broken. I didn't feel like I was doing anything that somebody else wasn't doing something else exceptional. So I feel like it was just kind of like the feeling of the community at the time was that there were just barriers and boundaries being broken everywhere in fitness.
So you came back and competed again in 2008. So the first two ever CrossFit Games, and you mentioned that it was like a barbecue. What were those first experiences like? Because you were there at the beginning. What was it like to be a part of it?
So the first CrossFit Games was it was really a cool experience to be there. Again, it was like a meeting of all these people maybe that you had seen in the comments before, getting to actually meet them in person. And I remember we actually legitimately had a barbecue after day one. And I remember personally getting to meet Chris Spieler at the time, who I really looked up to in the comments because he and I were right around the same body weight. So I remember when they pulled out at the time, it seems laughable now, but when they pulled out 135 as the weight for the 7 shoulder overheads at 15, that was like my body weight. And it was right around like the most I had ever done on a push jerk in a workout. So I was pretty intimidated by it. And then seeing him like fly through the workout was really cool. And I remember it was a very cool experience for me at that age to get to like meet him and then like just have a conversation about what he was doing training wise and his background.
So then your parents developed this methodology after seeing what you've done. And do you want to explain to us what that became?
Yeah. So spent years developing CrossFit Kids, and that obviously with the growth of CrossFit also expanded rapidly. I have 3 brothers, 2 of which were still at our house at the time. So it's kind of funny because you can see like the evolution of our program and the intentionality of the program and the specificity of the program that we've implemented, expressed in the progression of athleticism through my family. I really believe that my youngest brother is probably the most athletic of all of us. And I don't necessarily think it's like, he just got all the good genes. I think it's that he trained in a different way than all of us. And he had a long-term exposure to really, really developed and specific methodologies that were born through me and some of my friends training under my dad, and then my younger brother, who's 2 years younger than us, training with his friends, and then, sports teams coming into our gym, and then expanding that even further to my brother, who's his name is Duncan. He's the youngest. He's 6 years younger than me. So when I started CrossFit, he was 6 years old. And that's really when he started as well. By the time he was 18, in our small town, it seemed like, 50% of the teenagers who were in the town were in our gym training. So, there was such a large group and such a large impact at that point.
And with that, you became this super young seminar member. At 19, you became part of seminar staff.
Yeah. That was an interesting time in my life. And I attribute a lot of that time and the things that I learned from that time to where I'm at today. It's weird looking back on it because I don't think I appreciated the uniqueness of what I was doing at the time, because I was so young, and it just kind of seemed like, oh, this is just kind of the natural evolution of what I've been doing. I focused on this sport for so long and grew up doing it, and now I'm going to teach others how to implement it. But
I think most 19-year-olds would do that too. Most 19-year-olds aren't really realizing those things too.
I look back now and go, I got to go to all of these countries and meet people all over the world, who were into the same things that I was into, and got to coach a lot of, unique people. One of the things I think coaching wise that it really helped me with is, when you see over the tenure that I had with CrossFit on Seminar Staff, I got to do over 150 seminars, and that was CrossFit Kids level 1. And I also taught them the level 2 seminar staff for a little while. I got to see over 6,000 different people. And in that experience, at every single seminar, I got to see all of those people move. And it was like this, it's almost like there's like that movie where it's got Bradley Cooper. I don't remember what it's called, where he gets to take that pill and then he absorbs knowledge like super, super quickly because he takes that pill that allows him to do that. And it was like I didn't understand, but that was almost like what I got the opportunity to do, because I got to see so much diversity in movement, so many movement errors, so many injuries, so many different age groups within that time, and that's definitely shaped the coach that I am now.
And just for our listeners, that movie is Limitless.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's I love that as an analogy, because just going to a seminar, like a level 1, you soak up so much knowledge in that 2-day experience. I can't imagine seeing what you saw in a short amount of time and how much your sponge soaked up during that time.
Yeah, it's interesting, from a perspective of coaching athletes, but also from the perspective of getting to coach alongside other coaches who are really good at what they do. And I think I didn't realize the impact that would have on my career following it until I was done doing seminars, and I was like, wow, that was almost like a boot camp for the rest of my career.
So now I'll let you, sorry for interrupting, but I'll let you continue the story of your parents and the methodology and where you guys took it from there.
Yeah. So in 2014, my parents split off and developed the Brand X method. And a few things have really changed from the development of CrossFit Kids to the development of the Brand X method. And I think the fundamental shift is when we were developing CrossFit Kids, there was always this conversation about the congruency between the methodology of CrossFit and the methodology of CrossFit Kids, and specifically surrounding scaling workouts and making it look like CrossFit, right? Functional movements executed at high intensity, constantly varied, right? But we understood inherently that executing functional movements at high intensity for kids was not necessarily developmentally appropriate, especially at a young age. So there started to be some discussion on, okay, well, what will build a foundation for kids that will set them up for the best success, not just in, our goal is not just to build the best CrossFitters or functional fitness athletes. Our goal with the Brand X method is to create a physical preparedness that prepares them to excel in whatever they do, and also to continue a love of health and maintenance of their body for the rest of their lives. So when we split off as Brand X method, a really major focus became this kind of study behind the kids' development and what was the best possible implementation of physical movement for them at that age and at that time. So we have a very robust certification called the Professional Youth Certification, which focuses on how to prep and prime kids and to get them to love health and fitness for forever and be able to be successful in fitness forever.
So I'm curious though, I'm going to nerd out here for just a quick second. So my background is early childhood development and education. So I'm just curious, like what kind of background, you said talking about developmentally appropriate, like what kind of background or who did you guys consult with or how did you guys kind of pull that together to add that into your programming?
Yeah, so lots and lots of research went into what we are doing.
Sure.
Part of it was research as far as us actually taking courses, us reading the newest and latest studies on what is developmentally appropriate for kids, but also us creating strategic partnerships, much like what you would have seen in the beginning of CrossFit, where they were almost like trying to draw in people who were subject matter experts in as many areas as possible. And it's an area that seems to be have opened up a little bit more since the transition of Eric taking the helm. But since I think probably about like 2012 to 2020, what we saw within the CrossFit space was no, now all of the people that were in CrossFit are the experts, and nobody outside of CrossFit is an expert in anything. And we wanted to take the exact opposite approach. We wanted to say there are experts in development for children, and we're going to consult with those experts, one of which is James Fitzgerald. And we partnered with OPEX, and specifically, he has a very, very deep and rich history in exercise science and children's exercise science as well, and development of youth. So he added a lot to our course, and also a lot of specific knowledge on, okay, what's happening in the body of a 5-year-old at this time, and what are they primed to learn, and what things can we just throw out the window because it has no relevance to their training whatsoever. And you'll see that our training uses functional movement patterns, but it's in a very, very different way than you would see it performed in just a CrossFit gym.
Sure. Well, I really appreciate you answering that because I wanted that information to get out, because I think it's more comforting to know that it's based on so much in-depth knowledge, because anybody could take knowledge and go coach kids on how to make movements, but there's so much more to it than just the movements. There's also that aspect of that social, emotional, and where are they, cognitively, developmental wise. So
and that's another really good point too. We worked with somebody who is a child psychologist as well, and she is in Ireland, and she helped us write some material that works on and teaches how to address the mental development and emotional development of children, specifically with resiliency, which is something that we see a big lack of in the upcoming generation.
awesome. Great.
And so Brand X it's kind of funny. Amy and I went to a gym at the time. Amy still goes there, where we had an athlete compete at the Brand X Games. I think it was 2015, and he finished second at the games from our gym. And we heard nothing but rave reviews for the way the competition was held, and that you didn't just, it wasn't just a competition for the kids, but it was also a teaching session for them during the competition. Like you pulled them apart and said, this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. It wasn't just, hey, we're putting you out here on the battlefield to go to town. It's, hey, we want this to be a learning experience and a fun competition to boot.
Yeah, and it was called the Brand X Team Gauntlet.
That's it.
And
yep.
we called it the Gauntlet Gathering. So we invited gyms from all over the country to come to Brand X, and to we actually took some subject matter experts as well on nutrition and on weightlifting. And you're right, we did the competition, but the competition was actually kind of the way to get kids there and teenagers there. but really the focus for us was on educating all of these trainers who are training teenagers to compete in functional fitness on, okay, this is the correct methodology in doing so.
Well, what would have got me there is that was one of the coolest medals I've ever seen in a competition.
Yeah, we had a guy at our gym at the time who he did metal work, and he custom fabricated all of those, which was it was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, no better way to get a kid to come to a competition than have a badass award at the end.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
So Brand X starts, and you guys are still going strong to this day, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And so where can people learn about taking the certification to be able to coach kids?
brandxmethod.com. You can check us out there. You can also check us out on Instagram. We have a Brand X Instagram account, as well as a Facebook page. And all of those places will show you and give you more information on how to get the certificate I was talking about, which is we're very proud of it. It's an online course, and it's a course that has, again, like I said, a very robust amount of information. So it's not a course where you check a box for a weekend. It's I would say it takes probably about a week for people to go through of dedicated time, and sometimes people take even up to a month to go through it. There's a lot of information there. We said it's probably about 36 to 40 hours, depending on how fast you read.
That's awesome. And I love that you put that much time into that curriculum for that. I've learned so much just in this conversation that I want to know more. And I think that'd be a really cool certification. So you move on with Brand X, and then you start your own company as well, right? It's I think Summit. Is it Summit?
Yeah, it was Compete Elite.
Compete Elite. Sorry. Yeah, now I got it. There we go.
Yeah,
Compete Elite. And so you ran that company and it was an individualized programming for elite athletes, correct?
Yeah. Compete Elite's a project that I started working on just because of my passion for the sport of CrossFit. I've since stopping working on the seminar, I worked for Brand X, but I've also worked in a number of different gyms. One of which, when I moved to Houston, Texas, I started working at a gym called CrossFit Edo, which at the time was the biggest gym in Texas. It was a 30,000 square foot facility. When I moved there, they had 600 active members. It was, and I took over the role of gym manager. So I was 23, took over the role of gym manager, and it was kind of like a trial by fire situation, which was really, I learned a lot in that time. But we ran 5 concurrent programs. So we had boot camp, weightlifting, we had CrossFit, we had the CrossFit competitors program, and then we also had a yoga studio that was attached to the facility, and they all ran concurrently. And I was the gym manager, but also the head person for the competition program. And that's really where I started to develop the methodology I used to create Compete Elite, working with, it was right across the street from the college, the University of Houston. So we got, I think like our average member age was 23. So we got all of these, either just graduated athletes or athletes that were still athletes in college. Our competition program had 70 people, and at one time we had 50 people that were all within the top 200 in the region. So it was just a really good opportunity again for me to work and learn with this unique group of athletes. So once I moved on from CrossFit Edo, I started Compete Elite and started working with people remotely, and very quickly identified that yes, I want to work with everyone. I do work with individual athletes. I work with some masters athletes, but my biggest passion is working with people who are teenagers, because that's how I got into CrossFit. And there are two things I think that are really cool about that. Number one, just the place where the teen competition is now is just phenomenal. You take any of the 16 or 17-year-old games winners right now, and you put them in 2011, and I guarantee you, even just in the individual male category, those guys are going to give Rich Froning 2011 a run for his money. And it's just incredible to see what teenagers are doing. And the second thing I think is really cool about it is just the unique opportunity to take the knowledge that I have with the Brandix method and apply it to the top end of a sport with that. Sorry.
That's
Cut out
okay.
there for a second.
And so you've actually taken a handful of athletes to the games.
Yep.
And what is that experience like? You were there in the inception of the games. Now you're taking athletes there in the modern era of the games. And what is that difference like?
It's kind of nostalgic in a little bit of a funny way, even though it looks so much different to what it was. And every time I go, I get this feeling of like, I probably will never get to see something like this again, where I was there when it was, people would look back on the first games as like, oh, that was nothing, right? 75 athletes from across the country to where it is now, 400,000 people participating in the Open, to, people doing literally what most people would consider superhuman acts of strength and cardiorespiratory endurance and gymnastics ability. And just, so that's a really cool aspect to me. But I also like the challenge when I go to the CrossFit Games of getting to, because I feel like with most CrossFit programming and most just functional fitness programming, somebody hasn't been exposed to it before and they start, even if the programming is not right, they're going to get better. They're going to lose weight. They're going to feel healthier. They're going to feel better. But with an elite athlete at the top level, like CrossFit Games athletes, you can spend 6 months on programming, and if it's wrong, you can make them exponentially worse, or you can make them half a percentage better. And that's and that might be the difference between 10th and first, which is really, really cool to me.
So that leads me to this question. You were a competitor as a 15 and 16-year-old, and then you're a coach of an athlete. What is harder on you, competing or coaching?
Coaching for sure. I think when I was an athlete, I never had this fear of am I going to let anyone else down other than myself, right? And I think that's just a natural thing as a coach, right? Because it's a very nurturing role that whenever your athlete steps on to the field, you take responsibility for whatever happens out there, right? And I think that's I see a lot of the top coaches doing that, right? It's like your success is your success and our success, but your failure is my failure. We've done something wrong, and that is on me, and we're going to figure out what to do and the adjustments to make to make it right.
So conversely, it's also the biggest reward.
Yeah, I love working with athletes and seeing them succeed. I mean, it's what gets me up in the morning.
That's great. So because you haven't overachieved enough in your short life, you decided to write a book.
Yeah, one of my good friends here in Houston, he's a doctor. He's an ER doctor, and then he also works on the local SWAT team as the medic on staff. So they will call him in to SWAT calls, and he's there for for the whatever the situation is. So he reached out to me and said, "Hey, Connor, I've got an idea for a book. I'm seeing patients just come in and they have no ability to understand what will basically get them moving in the right direction." He said, "I see all of these books out there and they're this thick with, and that's just nutrition. And this is just fitness. And, like there's these massive books, 1,000-page books on what to do." And he's like, "My patients are not those people. My patients are people who, if they can't flip to it on page 3, they're done." So he said, "I want to write a basics of nutrition, a basics of sleep, a basics of breathing, a basics of moving your body. Do these things every single day and you will start to get healthier." And, flip to page 27. All right, it's right there. And our goal was to keep it at less than 100 pages. I think we ended up at 115. But he and I, and then he had a lady who he had known in his residency who became a nutritionist, as well as she's also an ER doctor. And she wrote the nutrition section for us.
And so the book is called Eat, Sleep, Breathe, The Beginner's Guide to a Healthy Life, or healthy, man, I have
Lifestyle.
to write better, lifestyle. Yeah, that's it. My handwriting's terrible. Sorry.
No
And
worries.
so you mentioned the 4 pillars that it's kind of based on, and that is nutrition, movement, breathing or meditation of sorts, and sleep. And so what I liked about it is you said that it's not for like a CrossFitter, because we're already in the gym doing what we need to do. What you want from CrossFitters is to tell their friends about the book who are too intimidated to walk into a gym.
Yeah, exactly. Because I always like to say that CrossFit is doable by everyone, but it's not for everyone, right? And we all have our friends who are like, "I'm never going to go do that. That's scary. That's intimidating." But everyone needs to do something to maintain their health and fitness. And this book is for your friend who's never going to walk into a gym, who doesn't want to, go talk to a nutritionist, who might glean even just one of the 4 pillars from the book and start changing their life in a positive way.
Yeah, I really commend you for that, because I think that is something missing from the bookshelves until you've done it. So now I want to talk about Underdogs. So you've lived this life doing so many things, owning your own business, working with your parents' methodology, and then how did you get hooked up with Justin Kotler and the Underdogs team?
So for a while, obviously kind of being a student of the sport, you look at other coaching methodologies that are happening. You look at other coaches to learn, but also to just assess what those athletes are doing as a competition as well. I first, I believe, saw Justin at the CrossFit Games with Carrie in 2020. And I think there was a really big emphasis on seeing some of those coaches interact with their athletes during that CrossFit Games, which is not something that happens very often. Obviously the coaches aren't highlighted very much. But during that CrossFit Games, because it was so small, you saw the interactions with the coach on the sideline, and you saw little snippets of it. And I just really respected the way that Justin talked with Carrie during the CrossFit Games. So I started to kind of watch Underdogs as a program and started to just kind of look at what they were posting. And everything that has come out about Underdogs, everything that's come out about Justin, I've been like, I agree with that. I like that decision. So I grew to really respect Justin and what Underdogs was doing. And I believe it was in like September, he posted that they were looking for new programming coaches. And I just said, I've been running my own programming entity. It's always been kind of a side project for me. It's not been my main focus. But I would love to work with more athletes on a larger scale. I'm admittedly pretty terrible at social media and self-promotion. So I reached out to Justin and said, hey, I would love to apply for the position. I sent him my resume and background, and then we started having this discussion on. He said, "Yes, we're looking for individual coaches, but the thing I'm more interested in is somebody kind of taking ownership of the teen category." And within Compete Elite, my dad also works with the teenage athletes. He does video review. And my brother, Keegan Martin, who is a powerlifter, also works with Compete Elite. So when I started that discussion with Justin, I said, hey, I have a staff that works with our teenage athletes specifically, and, I want to bring them on as well. And Justin thought that was a great idea. And, the thought process and everything kind of developed from that point, and we've been working together ever since.
And so you've really kind of taken on that entity, Underdogs, Underdogs, and kind of run with it. And what I liked is I talked to Justin at the Rogue Invitational, and his philosophy on these different entities under Underdogs was that he didn't want it to be just a recirculation of the elite program to the other ones. He wanted them to be made for the individuals that it was designed for. So you've kind of taken on the programming role there. Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts on it being its own separate kind of entity under the Underdogs umbrella?
That was really the only way I would have joined Underdogs. What I see right now in the landscape, and I'm not trying to be overly critical of other programs, is a lack of understanding that training teenage athletes is fundamentally different than training adult athletes in development, in just from a muscular standpoint, but also psychologically. And that's something that is not addressed in the market right now. And it's something that I knew that we could bring to the table. So my dad, myself, and my brother sat down and created a template program for Underdogs that does just that. It has 12 to 13 scaling, it has 14 to 15, and then 16 to 18. I think it's and this is just a little bit of a side note, I think it's a very big missed and gapped opportunity to include 18-year-olds, because we have not seen on the male side 18-year-olds move into the individual category, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Specifically that male athletes tend not to be at full physical development until they're like 21 or 22. And you probably won't see an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old in the CrossFit Games. So you have this like age gap between 17, which is the cutoff right now at the CrossFit Games, and 21, where an athlete has to become super dedicated to still get to the CrossFit Games at 21. But there's this whole space where now they're just seen as an adult and their body is still developing. So that was something we wanted to address within the program as well, as we put it out.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked to Casey Acree the other day, and he's doing the adaptive piece, and that I just love that uniqueness that Justin's kind of giving you guys the autonomy to do the programming for your piece of the puzzle. And that's very different than any other programming system out there. Basically, they have the elite program, and then everything is a scaled version of that down. where you guys
Mhm.
are given the autonomy to do what's right for your athletes. And so I want to finish that with, are you also coaching elite athletes different than the template?
Yes. So we have elite teenage athletes that we coach as individualized coaching athletes. And that's just a different program. So if somebody wants, hey, I need an individualized program. And what I would tell any team competitor or any parent that's looking at the template program is that the template program is almost like a specific program that is going to get your child generally better. If you want to accelerate that progress and that growth, we can do the individualized program, which will specifically cater to that child's needs specifically. And I always like to kind of think of it like, somebody comes in, they have great gymnastics capacity, they can do 30 ring muscle ups unbroken, but they can't snatch over 110 pounds. That program shouldn't have, ring muscle ups in it really ever for that child. That program should be focusing on addressing the weightlifting gap. And if you just purchase a template program, you're probably not going to get that specificity, if that makes sense, because we're hitting a broad general stimulus in the template.
Well, it seems like this is just a nice fit with you and Underdogs, just, based on what you were saying, Justin's very much a relationship-based, coach first, that nurturing piece. And as you were mentioning, when you are coaching kids, and teens, you've got to hit that, build that relationship first, which is a part of that nurturing piece. So I can just see this as a really smooth and nice fit for you both.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be with Underdogs and to look towards the future of the sport.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the future, you also have 3 daughters.
Woo!
So on top of all this, you are outnumbered big time. One.
Oh, yeah.
And do you see athletics in your kids' future?
Yes and no in some ways. So I am not a type of person who's going to push anything on them. My oldest daughter, she's 7 right now, and what I do push is physical activity. So us doing things together, whether that's us bouncing on the trampoline that we have outside, or us going for a jog together, or us riding scooters down the street, trying new things with our body. But I'm not the type of dad that's going to say, like, you're going to do gymnastics, you're going to be in the program, because my goal is to create a lifelong love of fitness and health for them, whether that is they want to compete in a sport, or that's they want to just do it to maintain their bodies because it's what you do to be healthy and fit. But I want that to be a fun experience for them, and I want it to be something that they choose to do because they love it. My oldest daughter, she's very into art, so she loves drawing, and I'm not sure that she's very interested in traditional sports. So I'm not going to push her in that way. My middle daughter is the most athletic girl you've ever met in your life. She's a 5-year-old, and we got a trampoline, and she said, "Hey, look, Dad," and literally just did a front flip and landed on her feet on the trampoline. And I was like, okay. And everything she does athletically, she just picks it right up. But we haven't put her in any sports or anything like that yet, because she hasn't expressed that she wanted to go play soccer yet, or go play softball or anything like that. It's just we're learning how to move our bodies. My youngest daughter is 18 months, so she's just learning how to climb on everything, and also to assert that she's in charge of everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a partner, and I think her name's Michelle.
Yes. Michelle and I just got married actually last month. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
And so is she into fitness and athletics as well?
Yeah, Michelle's been doing CrossFit now since like 2013. So it's how we met, and it's part of what we've maintained doing together. After everybody goes to bed every night, we actually go out into the garage and we do our workout together most of the time there. But it's a big part of who she is and her lifestyle as well, which is really cool. She's actually competing in the fittest experience at the end of January. So she's excited about that. I think it's her first live competition since having Stella. So,
Wow.
Well, we will be there with the podcast. We're actually
cool.
broadcasting live there. So I'm excited
Awesome.
about that.
Cool.
So I'm going to finish this with just some fun things because you don't have enough going on with your life. You're also a black belt in Kempo Karate.
Mhm.
And so what discipline is Kempo?
Kempo is traditionally a Chinese martial art, and it was brought over from China and became Americanized by a guy named Ed Parker. And the style that I practiced was through my dad had gotten his black belt, and when he opened our boxing facility, he also started Kempo karate classes. And again, it was kind of a natural thing for me to learn Kempo. And honestly, it's a big side of combat sports are a big side of me that I don't get to do enough anymore. But I did boxing, and I grew up doing all through high school. I did wrestling as well, and I did some jujitsu. So I love martial arts in general.
Well, I read somewhere that you do some competitive mixed martial arts. Is it just train or?
I did for a little bit. I did a few amateur MMA fights and amateur kickboxing fight. It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun doing it. I don't have enough time to dedicate to it to become like a professional in any sense of the word, but I enjoy it a lot. So when I do have the opportunity, I get into it. The last 2 years, obviously we haven't been out as much due to COVID, and I've been just hitting my heavy bag outside because I would say that boxing and martial arts are probably like the most communicable way of transmitting COVID. So sports wise, so I haven't been just as frequent in the gym with that.
When I saw that you did that, I figured you must have like just a touch of crazy in there to be able to get into a ring and let someone punch at you repeatedly.
It was
not
actually
much different from being a parent.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that crazy. It's not that far off. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I grew up doing boxing and martial arts, and it was always something that we did. We always did sparring, and I've always viewed it as like a physical chess match, which is kind of my view of it in general. And for the longest time, I actually debated whether or not I was going to pursue CrossFit as a sport or pursue mixed martial arts as a sport. But what I found was that at some point, I was going to come up against somebody who had an equal level of skill or more skill, who is actually angry all the time. And I don't know if you can tell by my personality, I'm a nice guy who likes to have fun and laugh with people, and I can't fabricate like I want to kill this person in the ring type mentality. That just doesn't come out of me. So I realized that at the top level, I'd probably get hurt pretty bad. So I decided to go with CrossFit as my my sport of choice.
Yeah, you don't have to get angry at the pull-up bar or the
No.
rings to defeat them. So
Yeah.
Well, Connor, it's been a treat getting to know you and chatting with you for this hour. I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys so much. It's been awesome getting to meet you guys too. And maybe I'll get to see you guys in Austin.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome, guys.
All right.
Well,
Thanks a lot.
Great to meet you guys.
Great to meet you. Good luck.